Smoke curled from the shattered walls like fingers searching for prey. She pressed her back against the crumbling metal beam, one arm clamped against her thigh to slow the bleeding. Her hand was slick, warm, and red, far too red. The wound had torn deep, but there was no time to assess. Not with the aliens sweeping the sector. Sergeant Elira Miles was supposed to die here. That's what the numbers said. What command would assume. A 10-minute recon drop gone catastrophically wrong. Her team vaporized in the first 30 seconds of contact. Plasma mines, smart ones, bred to smell human skin oils and lock on mid-blink. She had watched Hartley vanish in a scream and a flash of blue fire. Watched Lieutenant Rose split in half before even drawing his sidearm. Then nothing but instinct. Running. Bleeding. Hiding. Now silence. That was the worst part. Alien languages didn't have the decency of rhythm or tone, just static-filled hissing that drifted through the air like ghosts dragging broken teeth. Somewhere past the fallen corridor, the enemy was regrouping. Not fast, not reckless. Calculated. They knew she was here. They knew she was hurt. The game was almost over. She forced her breathing into shallow, timed bursts. Her chest armor had fractured along the left plate, the HUD flickering erratically. No signal. No satellite link. No med patch diagnostics. Just a growing pool beneath her knee and the faint echo of her own heartbeat pulsing in her skull. Something skittered to her right. Not metal. Claws. She didn't flinch. Instead, she listened. 1, 2, no more than 3 feet away. The aliens liked to test, poke around the edges of fear, herd prey into easy kill zones. She wouldn't oblige them. Elira reached for her belt. No gun. Her rifle had been melted out of her hands during the ambush, the discharge fusing the trigger into a smooth, useless hunk of slag. All she had left was a single half-shattered comms beacon and a combat knife whose edge had dulled halfway through gutting a drone 2 clicks back. Even if she could stand, she wouldn't get far. Not on that leg. And still she smiled. It wasn't madness. Not yet. It was defiance. The Xenos never expected that. Never understood it. How humans, soft-skinned, short-lived, irrational humans, could grin with a hole in their thigh and death stalking their shadow. That, more than any weapon, unnerved them. Her fingers found a jagged bit of alloy embedded in the floor. She pried it loose, hissed through her teeth as metal tore skin, and tightened her grip until the edge bit into her palm. Improvised. Crude. Familiar. Another hiss. Closer. A whisper of movement. A shape slithered through the broken corridor ahead. Pale green luminescence glinted off oily exoskeleton plating. Hunter class. She recognized the gate. Taller than a man, but thinner, like something evolution had stretched too far and left unfinished. Its weapon arm flexed, scanning for biosigns. It didn't see her. Not yet. Her pulse slowed. She counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. A sudden bark of static. Its head snapped up. It had her. She exhaled. And then froze. Something inside her clicked. A pulse not physical, but deep, cellular. Like muscle memory triggering muscle it hadn't used before. The skin on the back of her neck prickled. Her vision sharpened. Breath came easier. No. Not easier. Different. Her body wasn't shutting down. It was waiting. Coiled. The alien stepped forward, raising its rifle. She didn't move. Didn't blink. 20 seconds. That's what the last timer in her implant had shown before everything went dark. Now, something else was waking up. Elira's smile widened, slow and deliberate, blood still dripping from her fingertips. She was trapped, unarmed, and bleeding. But 20 seconds later, everything would change. The alien didn't hesitate. It lunged forward, weapon locking onto her chest in a smooth, practiced motion. A silent, surgical execution. But Elira was no longer where she'd been. In less than a breath, she had twisted sideways, her bloodied leg bracing against the wall for balance as the jagged metal shard in her hand found the gap beneath its arm plate. There was a wet crunch, a flash of green ichor, and a shriek so high-pitched it shattered the ambient hum of the corridor. She didn't pause. The shard tore free in a brutal arc, severing what passed for tendons in the alien's shoulder. It collapsed, spasming, flailing toward its weapon. She kicked the weapon aside and drove the metal deep into the base of its skull. Silence again. Thicker this time. Tense. Watching. She breathed hard, then stopped. Something inside her chest fluttered, like a second heartbeat beating out of rhythm. Her fingers twitched. The countdown had ended. Her vision sharpened until she could see individual motes of dust hanging in the air. Sounds layered themselves, tiny servos whirring in distant alien weapons, the soft vibration of magnetic boots pacing somewhere above, the ragged exhalations of a dying creature's last breath. Her injuries still throbbed, but the pain no longer dominated. It informed. She crouched over the alien corpse. Her movements were too precise now. Efficient. Mechanical in purpose, but deeply human in instinct. She stripped the armor with quick tugs, found a biostimulant injector on its belt, and jammed it into her thigh, without ceremony. The alien compound hit her bloodstream like fire, but she stayed upright, eyes fixed on the corridor. Not fleeing. Hunting. Memories she hadn't lived began surfacing. Combat maneuvers she never trained for, languages she didn't recognize translating themselves in real time, and a tactical awareness that turned every piece of cover, lighting, and elevation into advantage. "Protocol 9 online," she whispered, the words leaving her mouth before her mind had fully caught them. She didn't remember activating it, didn't remember being briefed on it, but the phrase stirred something familiar, like a name you didn't know you'd forgotten. Somewhere in the depths of her being, something built for this exact moment had been waiting, watching, learning. They had told her there'd be no backup, no cavalry, no evac, just survival. But they hadn't told her why. Above her, claws scratched at a vent shaft. She didn't look up. Instead, she palmed a piece of ceramic shrapnel and flicked it at the far wall. It clanged once, loud and deliberate. The alien dropped through the vent, aiming for the sound. It never saw her coming. She landed on its back mid-lunge, teeth gritted as she drove her blade into its throat joint, twisting until its limbs spasmed and fell still. She rolled off, panting now but steady. 2 down. Movement in the hallway. A squad this time, 3, maybe 4. Shadows lengthened, weapons raised. She didn't retreat. She moved sideways into the darkness of a broken stairwell, footsteps light, breaths even. Her gait favored the injured leg less now. The stim was doing its job. Or maybe Protocol 9 was doing something more. Another memory. Not hers. A lab, sterile and humming. A man in a coat. You'll feel like dying. That's normal. What comes after isn't human. Don't fight it. She hadn't understood then. She did now. The squad entered the hallway below. She crouched at the stairwell's edge, listening. Their patterns were off, one was lagging. Nervous. The leader barked something sharp in that grinding alien tongue. She dropped onto them like gravity had chosen a side. The first alien went down under her knee, spine cracking audibly. The second tried to turn, but she wrenched its rifle upward and redirected the fire into its own comrade. Plasma tore flesh from armor, and the shriek was drowned by gunfire ricocheting wildly. She disarmed the last one with a sweep of her forearm, ducked a panicked backhand, and slammed her head into its faceplate. The crack echoed. It staggered. She didn't give it time to fall. Her blade, blunt now from abuse, still found soft spots. It dropped with a final, gasping rattle. Elira stood amidst the wreckage, chest heaving, skin streaked in blood. Some hers, most not. Something buzzed at the edge of her hearing. Distant. Electronic. She reached into the alien's armor, pulled out a comm device. Still active. Containment breach. Signal anomaly, high priority biological. The alien voice stuttered, half panicked. They knew. Not that she was alive, but that she shouldn't be. She crushed the comm unit and turned toward the echoing corridor beyond. The ship wasn't empty. Not yet. She could feel them adjusting, regrouping. But something in her had adjusted, too. She was no longer prey. She wasn't sure what she was. Not fully. But the fear was gone. What filled its place was cold, absolute certainty. She walked into the shadows with calm steps, dripping blood with every footfall, each one louder than the last. Let them come. The alien commander watched in silence, mandibles twitching as new telemetry scrolled across the holofield. Squad 5, lost. Squad 6, signal terminated mid-transmission. Internal sensors showed erratic energy spikes in the lower hull, interspersed with bursts of motion, so fast the system flagged them as ghost data. A single human life sign, corrupted, unresolved. He tilted his head, antennae trembling with unease. This wasn't a battle. It was a pattern of deliberate, methodical destruction. And it had begun precisely 20 seconds after initial contact. Restrain your fear, the tactical officer hissed beside him, but the attempt at discipline sounded hollow. Even she had stopped blinking. They had underestimated her. Again. For all the human flaws they catalogued, emotional volatility, sensory limitations, crude biology, they never could quantify what made one of them impossible to kill. Especially her. He issued the order none of them wanted to hear. Evac the lower decks. Seal the ship's core. We are no longer the hunters. Miles below, Alira stepped over the twitching corpse of what had once been the alien officer she now recognized as their communications specialist. He had tried to surrender. She didn't blame him. She didn't even hate him. But Protocol 9 didn't allow for negotiation. It only required results. The internal map now hovered before her, projected from a salvaged display plate jury-rigged to her arm. Alien tech interfaced cleanly with her implant, even bent to its commands now, as though understanding hierarchy had shifted. It showed her the path to the reactor core and, more importantly, the main transmission node. She could feel them watching through cameras, sensors, maybe even psychic threads, though the last never held on her long. Something in her fried their attempts to read. She had become noise to their senses. Chaotic. Unreachable. They feared that. She limped now only out of habit. The wound on her leg had clotted into a numbed ache. Her skin was coated in dried blood, her own heartbeat drowned beneath the strange harmonic pulse of whatever Protocol 9 had truly activated. She wasn't just surviving. She was becoming something they hadn't accounted for. At the junction ahead, a last squad waited.
Not soldiers this time.
Heavies. For enforcers in biomechanical frames bristling with containment tools, non-lethal. Meant to trap, not kill. They still hadn't learned. She emerged from the shadows without flinching, without words. The first beam net fired, hissing through the air like a crackling whip. She stepped into it and let it wrap around her. For a moment, the room froze. Then, with a guttural breath, she wrenched her arms outward. The net convulsed, sparked violently, and overloaded in a pulse that shattered the lights above. Her scream, raw and guttural, echoed off the walls like thunder. When the lights flickered back, two enforcers were already on the ground, armor sparking, limbs twitching. The third tried to backpedal, but she was on him before the order to fire left his lips. She tore the rifle from his grip and drove it upward through the fragile underside of his helmet. His death was quick. The last dropped his weapon. Cowardice or wisdom, she couldn't say. She let him live.
For now.
The reactor door loomed. She accessed it with the alien pad, her implant overriding their firewalls as though they'd built them for her to dismantle. Inside, the room thrummed with power. She reached the primary terminal and uploaded the stolen data package embedded deep in her neural lattice, the one she hadn't known existed until the nanites in her blood had woken it. The console shimmered, then confirmed transmission. A new voice crackled through her comms, warm and human. Zeta 9, signal received.
Confirming uplink.
Reinforcements rerouted. Stand by. She exhaled slowly. For the first time since the ambush, she allowed herself to rest her hand against the wall and lean into the fatigue pressing behind her eyes. But the voice continued. Alira, we didn't expect the protocol to stabilize. You're further along than projected. Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean? There was a pause. Just long enough to feel intentional. Your vitals. You're not entirely human anymore. Not by baseline standards. The line went dead. She stood there, listening to the silence again. But this time it was different. No more footsteps. No more whispers. No more pursuit. Above her, the alien commander initiated a full retreat. He didn't wait for permission. He broadcast a single message to his people across all secure channels. Do not engage lone humans. Ever. Alira stared at the bodies around her. At the blood on her hands. At the console that had reshaped her DNA into something Earth Command called a tactical evolution. She was the last survivor. But more than that, she was a prototype. And they had just learned she worked. Behind her, deep within the ship's systems, something else began to wake. She turned toward it, heart slowing, eyes glowing faintly in the dim reactor light. Let them come.